Hello and welcome to an evening edition, emergency edition of Beyond the Pod. I am Brandon Mileski, Pat Micheletti with me. Thanks for joining us. Maybe for the second time today, Pat. We taped
Yes.
our podcast earlier today, which you can find on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch us on the KFAN YouTube channel. We had plenty to talk about earlier today, just with the Jonas Brodin trade, the Mikko Koivu news. Will Matt Dumba be shopped? Will he be traded? And then I was a little caught off guard because when you're looking at all the things that could have happened to this roster this offseason, moving Eric Staal was not on my radar, Pat.
Well, I'm going to bring you back to earlier today, Brandon. And, not that we're the smartest guys in the room. However, we did talk about that there could be a lot more changes. And this did catch me off guard also. However, I think it's just the beginning of what Billy Guerin is going to, and Tom Curvers and staff are going to try to do. And that's shake up this team. And, people look at the trade and they say, Marcus Johansson, is he a center? Is he a left wing? I really personally, like I told you today, I don't care. They need an upgrade up front. And this guy, wherever he ends up playing, whether it be left wing or whether it be at center, I don't care how many left wings they have right now, because I think there are going to be more changes to happen. I've liked this guy, and you and I talked about him a year ago when he was in the free agent market, and he ended up signing with Buffalo when he left Boston. And so I think it's a good move. I like him because he's a little bit younger, obviously 29. He has experience. He has speed, which this team needs. He has skill. The question is, where is he going to play? And guess what? They'll figure it out. But they got a guy who has NHL experience and who's a legitimate player. I like the move.
Yeah, it's always a little challenging to just gauge off of what people are saying on social media, but it appears to at least in my feed, that people have been kind of critical of this move.
Yeah.
The more I think about it, the more I like it, Pat.
Yeah.
And I know if you just look at goals and assists, that Eric Staal has been more productive than Marcus Johansson. But one, you and I both talked about him going into last season as a potential free agent. I loved him in the playoffs a couple years ago.
He was terrific. He scored big goals.
Yeah.
And moved up and was a top 6 guy for them. There's no question. You put him with the right guys, he's going to produce. And you know what? He brings something that this team doesn't have. And I love Eric Staal. I loved his career. I wish him luck in Buffalo. He's a great person, great teammate, all of that. But he's going to be 36 years old, and this team needs to get younger in their top 6. And they accomplished that today.
Well, let's talk specifically about the style of play, because Eric Staal is more of a goals first goal scorer. I mean, he can set up a little bit, but he's not a playmaking forward. And it always seemed odd to me to have him with Fiala, or you got Kaprizov coming in, which who knows what level he's going to be at. But those are supposed to be kind of your two big goal scorers. Fiala is a guy who demands the puck.
Yep.
So if you put him with a center who's not a playmaking center, to me that's a mistake. And not that Johansson is a number 1 center, because I don't think he is.
No.
But to me, his traits are a better fit for playing with Fiala or playing with a Kaprizov than Eric Staal is. And let's face it, they both have 1-year contracts. So even if it doesn't work out with Johansson, let's face it, if Eric Staal was your number 1 center, this team's not going anywhere.
No.
Anyway. So what are you really losing if he moves on to somewhere else? And even if Johansson fails, it wasn't going to work with Staal as your number 1 center. So to me, I just think Johansson, as you mentioned, he's a little bit younger. He's got more speed. Eric Staal, you watch him in the playoffs, and that's when the pace picks up. That lack of speed is very evident, that he really can't do anything for you come playoff time. Not that it's a guarantee they'll make the playoffs, but Johansson's he's a playmaker. He's a setup guy. He's got a little bit more speed, and he's younger. So I'd take that chance than going another year with Eric Staal as your top center.
And here's the deal, Brandon. I think we talked about this today also. The Minnesota is loaded with a bunch of bottom 6 forwards. To me, I want to get better players in my top 6. He's a better player that can play in the top 6. And I don't get caught up so much And well, is he a center, a left wing, a right wing? That's his main position. You know what? Right now, it's about improving your team, and now this maybe gives Bill Guerin. I don't think this is the last deal, and
Yes.
so you can take all your left wings and put them in a basket, and who's going to be the guy. I think there's going to be more moves. I really believe that. And so that being said, let's not just really judge this trade right now, because I think there's going to be more, and then we'll see where it fits. And and sometimes when you're building a team, you need to get the right fit for the right spot and how's he going to fit in with the rest of the team. And so I just think let it settle a little bit. Let Bill Guerin continue to do his work, and we'll see where if he's going to be a left wing or a center or maybe play on the right side. We don't
Yeah.
know that until the rest of the pieces are put together.
Well, the fact that he's versatile is a good thing, and people are kind of fixating on adding another left winger, and Bill Guerin said that he's going to play him at center, and who knows?
Yeah.
But to your
Sure.
point, other trades are going to be made. You
Yes.
still have free agency ahead, and just because you have too many left wings right now doesn't mean you're going to have too many left wings in a couple of weeks. Because
That's right.
let's say Zach Parise gets traded, which Micah Russo has basically reported that they're going to probably consider trading him again. Well,
Yep.
there's a left wing spot open right there.
Yep.
So
And what about Jordan Greenlee? Could be part of a deal to get a goaltender. We don't know that, and that's why
exactly.
I say let's calm down. We know we got a good guy. He's a good player. I don't know if he'll score you 30 goals. I hope he gets you 20. And is a good penalty killer and can play in the power play, and is a great team guy. Listen, this team needs a change of dynamics. We've seen it year in, year out, where they get to a point where, we know they're going to make a little run, but they get too far down. And, I think they're looking for a little bit more consistency. He played well in Washington. He was not on a good team in New Jersey. And guess what? Boston wanted him for the playoffs. And what did he do for Boston in the playoffs? Pretty darn good. Scored some awfully big goals for the Boston Bruins. Free agent, decided to go to Buffalo. He was going to the worst team in the league with a bad organization at the time. And it was just negative, negative, negative. Hopefully he'll come here with guys like Fiala and Kaprizov and guys like that, and the decor that we have here. And it'll be a fresh start for him. And I applaud the move today.
Well, so Mikko Koivu's not likely to return.
Nope.
Eric Staal is not here anymore. It's possible Zach Parise gets traded. Those are three guys that are pretty old, and so clearly
is probably not going to be here.
But to my point on the older guys, Pat, is you have three guys that have been kind of fixtures of this team, some longer than others.
Yep.
That are now going to be gone. You're going to get younger. I think they're going to try to get faster.
Yep.
And let's face it, you've had a team that's gone to the first round of the playoffs and been eliminated so many times that just mentally in the locker room, from a culture standpoint, you got to get rid of some of those guys, whether they're at fault or not. And I think just from a hierarchy standpoint in the locker room, to get rid of three older guys, not saying all three of them are the problems or picking out any in particular, but just mentally, I think the team just kind of needs a new culture there.
They need new juice. What did we hear all year? I talk to people around the league all the time. And you and I have talked about it. What did they say about this team? Slow and old and slow. Okay, well, that was addressed today with Johansson, and just what you mentioned. There's a good possibility some of those guys you mentioned may be on the move also. So that being said, you've got to and here's another thing. Look at Las Vegas, right? Look at Vegas. Look at Edmonton. Look at Chicago, right? If you're going to beat these teams in St. Louis and Calgary, those teams are a little bit quicker. You lost to a good Vancouver team who's young and fast. And so you better get up to par with those teams in terms of speed and skill. And I really believe that, when they had their meeting a couple of weeks ago, like Dean Evison told us, they had those conversations. We got to get faster. We got to get younger. And the deal was made today.
Ezekiel Lockhart says full on rebuild mode now, huh, boys? And I've seen a couple. I've seen a couple people allude to it being a rebuild.
Don't get
To me, if it's a full teardown rebuild, you're trading Staal for draft picks and young prospects. I mean, they traded for a guy who's going to be able to contribute in your top six or middle six immediately. And they
old. You're not going to rebuild with a 29-year-old. You're not. If they, like you said, if it was a prospect who's 23 who needs another year in the minors, or who's still in college, or a draft pick, that's a rebuild. This is not a rebuild trade. It's funny. We all like Eric Staal, right?
Yes.
Like Eric Staal, no question. But he's 36.
Yes.
And so I don't know how people can look at this and say, oh boy, how can they trade Eric Staal? Well, that's part of doing business and getting younger. And the thing is, they're getting a guy with skill and a guy with some speed. And what does this team need? Skill and speed and youth. And not that he's young, but he's not 36.
No. And I know we think they're like super far away, but if you think about it, I think they kind of have an emerging star in Fiala. Who knows with Kaprizov? But Kaprizov's not an 18, 19-year-old kid here. He's played in the professionals, so he should be able to come in and contribute right away. Depending on what kind of trade they make, they might be able to get one of those elite guys here. They're going to have a couple first round. They got a high first round pick here. They got 2 first round picks next year. Their decor is up there with the tops in the NHL. If you get a goaltender all of a sudden and 1 or 2 more guys contribute offensively, you're not saying we're ready to hoist the cup, but they're not that far from contending.
No, they really aren't. And I tell you, I don't know what they're going to do with Matt Dumba. We don't know that. If they do acquire somebody, a top 6 forward, obviously his name's going to be involved everywhere. And guess what? Matt's a hell of a player. And there's not a team out there that wouldn't want a Matt Dumba. Okay, that's great, right? So in return, you're going to get a good player, and you're going to get a top 6 forward for Matt Dumba. And so all of a sudden, you mentioned with the decor that they have, and they would still have 3 really good defensemen in Brodin and Suter and Spurgeon. You can find a 4th, or maybe they think Soucy is ready to be one of their top 4D if they re-sign him. Well, as you just mentioned, that makes them a different team, a different hockey team. And so let's see what else he has up his sleeve in the next month or so.
All right, Benjamin Owski wants to know any goalie rumors for the Wild to get.
Well, I don't know, but I tell you one thing: what we've learned is that Thatcher Demko is not going anywhere in Vancouver. He was phenomenal in the series against Vegas, right? And so I think Jacob Markstrom can be had. He's 30 years old. You're going to have to pay him, $4 or $5 million. And if he's available, and you think he's a number 1, which he is a number 1, I like him the best of what's out there. Now, Fleury may be available, but you'd have to trade for him. And I don't know if the pieces work with Vegas and Minnesota making a deal. I'm not real high on Holtby. Could you sign him for a year if you really like Kakkonen? I think if you're going into next year, I don't think you give Kakkonen the number 1 job. I think he's got to play more games, Brandon. I don't know your thoughts on him.
But you got to do a 1A, 1B thing with him.
Yeah, you cannot just say, okay, yeah, you had a great year in the American League. The American League is not the National Hockey League. What do you play up here? 5, 6, 7 games I don't have the stats in front of me, but just to anoint him as your number one and put that pressure on him, I think it's too much. And so I think you can get a goalie. Matt Murray's available also. I don't know if they're going to make another deal with Pittsburgh or if Pittsburgh wants to, but that being said, there's a goalie to be had. My number one guy is Markstrom. I know some people around here don't think that they should go after him, but boy, oh boy, he's a pretty darn good goaltender.
All right, couple more minutes left. I'm going to take you off here, correct, Pat? I don't know if you're getting the feedback that I'm getting. Let's try this again. Hello. Okay, that sounds better to me. Okay. Jason Collender wants to know, how about Dumba to Vancouver to get Besser?
Not going to happen. They won't make that deal. Would I be against the deal like that? Absolutely not. I just don't think Vancouver, with their youth and the guys that they have and they're playing together, and Pettersson and Besser I think when you look at their D, they don't need Matt Dumba. They have Quinn Hughes.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah.
Well,
even from a Wild perspective, I like Brock Besser. I would like a deal in which he comes here. They could use a right-hand shot in your top six that could play with skill. But when you have Matt Dumba as a piece, to me, you only move him if you can bring in a number one or a number two center with potential to be number one. Yep. Because if you move Matt Dumba for a right wing, how are you ever going to improve the center position?
No.
Like, we're talking about how we like Johansson, he's a nice player, but in terms of like a legit number one center, you have nothing else on your roster unless you're just going to throw away a bunch of first round picks for the next couple of years. Other than Dumba's the main piece to lure that in. So to me, it's center or bust with Dumba, in my opinion. Otherwise, I keep him.
Right, and here's a deal I like that I've been talking about that probably won't happen. But I tell you what, you offer Matt Dumba and Devin Dubnyk to Calgary, and you get one of Calgary's goaltenders and Johnny Gaudreau. I think that's a fair deal, and I think it's a deal.
Well, that I would do it. Yeah.
Right? I think Calgary. Calgary needs help on defense, and to get a guy like Dumba, I think they would be. I think they would like to do a deal like that. Because I just don't. Or a Monahan. Because it hasn't worked up front with those. With those two guys leading the charge in Calgary. So, who knows?
I now take back I would only trade Dumba for a center, because if I can get Johnny Gaudreau, I would do that.
Right?
So, Goose MN612 says, Hibbing loves you, Pat. Any smoke on Marc-Andre Fleury? Seems like he's the odd man out in Vegas. Obviously, with the way Lanner played after being acquired by the Chicago Blackhawks there for Vegas.
They cannot keep both goaltenders because they are going to re-sign Leonard. I think a contract is in the works, and he's going to command big money. Are you going to have $12 million under contract for two goaltenders? They can't afford to do that because they've got Mark Stone, they've got Pacioretty, they've got Nate Schmidt, Theodore, guys like that are making big money, and so he's going to be moved. And what I like, if they could get Marc-Andre Fleury here, a guy who's won 2 or 3 cups, absolutely in a heartbeat. But but the right deal would have to be made. What does Vegas need? Would they be interested in a Matt Dumba? Again, would I make that deal? There'd have to be more pieces involved. There'd have to be a Marchessault or a William Karlsson, who's their number one center. Does he intrigue you enough to move for Matt Dumba? I don't know, but so it'd have to be a bigger deal when it comes to acquiring a goaltender and having Matt Dumba be part of it, because you've got to get a centerman back.
We talked about this earlier today on Beyond the Pod when we taped it. You can listen to the podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcast. You can also watch it. Just subscribe to the KFN YouTube channel. But we'll chat about it again, because it's been asked by Marty Carey Gonzer, who says, what did you guys think of picking up Nick B? Obviously, Nick Bukestad. It didn't cost the Wild more than a couple of donuts.
Yeah, well, take a flyer on him. He's been injured a lot. They say he's 100% healthy. You know what? He's got the talent. It hasn't resonated. He had one good year, 49 points in Florida. You know what? You say, Nick, be a star on our third or fourth line, and contribute offensively and kill penalties. It could be an upgrade to what they have. So in that also gives you a few chips. Also, does someone really want Eriksson Ek, or is Nico Sturm not quite ready, or or can they move him to a wing, or whatever the case may be? There's going to be a bunch of players in a ball that are going to be fighting for spots on the third and fourth line, because all of those guys that the Cunnin, the Greenways, Foligno, Eck, guys, and Sturm, guys like that are not going to play in your top six. At least I don't see it. Maybe when you need to, you can move things around a little bit, but really, we're talking bottom six guys. So is everyone going to have a job? No, and so again, they could be part of a package. Especially, they're not going to move Bukestad since they just got him. So, it'll be interesting.
Meat Sauce says hi.
Hello, Meat Sauce.
Hi, Paul Meat Sauce. That's City Page's sports talk radio host of the year right there.
Unbelievable. Yep.
That's it. We could go on for hours and hours, but like I said, if people want to listen to us or watch us, we do the Beyond the Pod podcast every week. You can listen to that on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch us on the KFAN YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe. Pat, we'll talk to you next week unless we have another emergency pod before then.
Brandon, let's not forget our fine sponsors, Culturama and Soda Stick.
I appreciate that.
You got it.
Bye, Pat.
Bye.